I really feel like Darwin has taken us into the heart and opened it up. I mean, kept our consciousness in the realm of the heart so that you actually see there's a lot of space in there
Yeah.
for instead of just grabbing the first sanskara and running with it.
Yeah. Having it grab us and run with it.
Well, like Darwin said, you waking up is like, arriving at a train station, but just don't just jump on the first train. You might wind
It
up New
might not be
Zealand pretty
going where
soon.
you want to go.
What?
It might not be going where you
Yes,
want to go.
spend some time on the platform and seeing what train Baba indicates for you to what love and Baba indicate to take. Yeah.
Well, it's all his will. So if you took the wrong train, you'd have a fine adventure getting back on the right train, but wouldn't it
Yeah.
save some effort if you just
Oh,
got on the right train in the first place?
yeah. It's a little faster if you're moving. Take the express trains a little bit better than a local train, and the destination is better that Bob is the destination.
Yes.
And but yeah, it's all a going forward. But I always think it's everything is Bob's will, but not everything is his wish. I once approached uh, Darwin on this. Some of you heard it, and how he came down on predestination and free will. And I asked him, and he kind of looked at me like, "Well, what do you think?" So I came up with various terms, and the one that he kind of brightened up on was when I said spontaneous predestination.
Paradox.
And what does that mean? Well, what it means is that love predated creation. The love in us at the deepest level was before creation, so it's free. But then creation itself is this like a black and white film, a movie, and with the love we can put the colors into this black and white film, this black and white predestined film, and kind of give it some life and color. But that he kind of like that. It's a little less passive than just being a witness and watch everything go to hell in a handbag.
Mm.
you know. But he was had a little bit more of a less of a passive view of predestination, but an active part, and also that through Baba's grace can supersede the what Baba calls the rigidly determination of cause and effect of karma. Baba can actually override that. So there's even that as a factor. I'll tell you, this might be interesting. I spent a lot of time with Dr. Harry Kenmore, and when he was 16, his parents didn't tell him, but he suddenly woke up blind, and he had no preparation for it, and he was very resentful of his parents because they didn't give him any forewarning of it, and then just being blind. And his parents really just basically kind of disowned him. They told him, you." It used to be that blind people sold rags from carts in the streets of Manhattan, and I could probably the other boroughs. So you should just go and sell rags. And he really kind of disowned his parents. And he was not only that, he was a very lively, he was in drama and singing and very popular person. And then suddenly the lights go out, and uh, he was fearless, quite fearless, and he got started hopping trains with the help of certain people, and he got into the carnival business, circuses, and he would get up and sing, and they just kind of point him how to do things. He said he could even hypnotize people, whole audiences, by just a certain tone of his voice and everything. So he did that for a number of years. Then he came back to New York. He had a buddy of his who was studying chiropractic, and so he decided to become a chiropractor. And he and his friend helped him out and all that. He with the X-rays and everything. But anyway, he became a chiropractor. And then, but he was still resentful about being blind, and so he he started meditating at one point, and he told me he meditated for 10 years. And 10 years for Harry Kenmore is like 200 years for most human beings. I mean, he was very intense. So, during in this, he even described to me that he went past the fourth plane of infinite powers. Well, here's another thing. He was meditating in his office, blind, totally blind. And in one of his deep meditations, he opened his eyes and he could see the room, because he got beyond his physical eye, which was blind, but his inner eye was not in his high meditation. But anyway, at one point he said he got into his past lives and he studied his past lives, and he could see the logic of how karma unfolds, but there was no reason for him to be blind. Oh, I mean, he resented that more. He could not see any explanation for his blindness going back. And then this is in the 50s, and eventually I think it was either Adele Walken or Margaret Krask came as one of his patients, because he was an incredible healer. I mean, he could give adjustments from a remote control, I mean, from a distance. You could get your you could get your adjustment without his even touching you. But anyway, he heard of Baba through them, and he felt Baba's divinity and everything. and then he came down to the center in 1956. I think he may have met Baba in New York, but anyway, when he went into the lagoon cabin after the usual exchange of pleasantries and all of that, he said to Baba, "Why did I become blind?" And Baba said, "I created your blindness. You were destined to be a world-renowned surgeon, but you wouldn't have had time for me." And that was the first time, I mean, it must have been in his 40s or 50s, that he accepted his blindness. And as a result, as a chiropractor, if he had been a world-renowned surgeon, he would have been at the beck and call of all the wealthy and royalties of the world. As it was, he got to work on Baba as a chiropractor. And he may have been responsible for getting Baba to be able to walk after the second accident, because he stayed there for months and everything. But so this is an example of where grace, the law of grace, superseded what he saw as his karma. I mean, the unfoldment of his past lives. This thing came in, and it wasn't on the schedule. Unexpected visit. So anyway, did that make any sense? Yeah. So there's always that can happen, Larry. He could just lift you right out of here, and when it wasn't even in the cards. You get dealt a joker.
Get out of jail free.
Yeah, get out of jail free card. Yeah. I don't know if it's this quote that I kept in my wallet until eventually shredded, where Baba says, "All differences between one another are merely superficial and cannot affect the love we feel for each other deep down.
Yeah.
Does that seem like it?
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing. In other words, we
Beautiful.
already love each other. That's just a matter of moving the debris away to see that truth. It's like on an overcast day, we say the sun isn't out, you know, but it's definitely out, and it's kind of like that. It's a great place to start from. I feel with people is that you know you already love that other person, and they already love you, and start out from that paradigm, and then see if it's possible to get a break in the clouds to actually see that that's in fact true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a great quote.
yeah.
Wanted to thank you for it.
That was one of my favorites. I kept it, like I say, in my wallet all through the 70s until it was unrecognizable. Okay, so let's take a few moments of silence. Jai Baba. So, I think everybody here knows the format, and Angela will, search the game board and see who reads next, and you can pass if you like, and and each person will read the section, and if there are any remarks or questions or examples that people can give, that's always welcome. And this next section is going to Darwin. Well, the first part is self-forgiveness. I think the first section, but after that, Baba talks about how we limit, or Darwin talks about how we limit ourselves. And many of you have heard this before, but I once asked Darwin, what is the biggest mistake the Baba lovers are making? And he said, they think of themselves as small and they remain small. Think big, think beyond the traditional spiritual box. Because we have Baba in our lives, we are immense. In fact, there's a quote from Prophet Muhammad where he says, the heavens and earth cannot contain me, but the heart of my sincere lover can hold me. So, so part of the next thing coming up is where Baba says, I am what anyone takes me to be. And Baba said, if you take me to be a judge, I will be a judge and I will judge you. But Darwin was more for expanding it, take Baba to be your mother who loves you unconditionally and overlooks all of your weaknesses, or your father, loving father who's there for you through thick and thin, through everything that you, and or even your most intimate friend that you can share the deepest secrets of your life. In other words, Baba can be as large as we are willing to open to. That was kind of Darwin's approach. Now, I'm going to read. Over the years, people would ask Darwin, how can I combat my ego? How can I deal with this ego? And this is a quote from somebody named Sheikh Tusan Barak. I don't know him, but here it is. The lower self, or ego, is like a thief who sneaks into your house at night to steal whatever is valuable and worthwhile. You cannot fight this thief directly, because it will mirror whatever force you bring against it. If you have a gun, the thief will have a gun. If you have a knife, the thief will have a knife as well. To struggle with the thief is to invite disaster. So what can you do? The only practical solution is to turn on the light. The thief, who is a coward at heart, will then run out. How do we turn on the light? Through the practice of remembrance, awareness, and heedfulness of the beloved. How do we turn on the light? Through the practice of remembrance, awareness, and heedfulness of the beloved. So that was Darwin, just if you can, turn on the light, meaning turning to Baba, and a lot of that stuff will will dissolve. But anyway, so let's get started on, well, what's the page number?
All right, it's page 76 of the book.
Self-forgiveness. Self-effacement does not mean self-persecution. If God loves us, which He does, then we can also love ourselves. But we must also forgive ourselves. It is important that we do so because we are not guilty. We are not the body or the personality, but the untarnished soul. If we must have an ego stance, why not identify with the statement, I am purity, instead of I am guilty? We approach the beloved as nothing, no position, no merit, and no stance. We are open books to Him, and we have made countless errors, but the Lord of mercy who continuously forgives us for the misdeeds of our false selves. He does not measure us. We are the limitless soul, and that is how He sees us. Our refuge is in His love for us.
I mean, self-forgiveness is a critical part of maintaining an inner harmony, having to forgive yourself. I mean, Baba said his method was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we are going to have things that we're going to have to forgive ourselves for as we go along.
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah.
So I had a question. In here it says, it is important that we forgive ourselves because we are not guilty. And I'm pretty sure this is quite deep, and I'm missing something here. We are guilty of making, our sanskaras working for us, so we end up doing wrong things sometimes, and that brings us guilt. But here he's saying that we should forgive ourselves because we are not guilty. What are those missing dots here that...
Yeah. Anyone, I'll respond, but anyone else who can respond to what Shraddha said there?
Orang had his hand up before you asked, but Orang, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump from her subject, but the word that really caught my attention was limitless soul. Limitless soul. What does that pertain to? In what respect? In what degree? In spirituality, what does limitless mean?
Yeah, to me that means the consciousness doesn't get stuck on anything. It goes, it spreads out without hitting any limits. It flows through everything. So we are actually limitless at the soul level. At a personality level, our consciousness comes to an abrupt halt, and we become a person.
So in limitless, it's valuing it to our consciousness.
Say that again?
So the limitless, it is relating that to our consciousness.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that kind of connects with what Shraddha said, too, that I know it's hard to imagine that we aren't this personality. I know when I was quite young, Darwin looked at me and he said, Jeff, you are not the personality self. And I had no place to put that. I mean, I'm not Jeff. Inside I thought, wow, I thought the whole purpose was to get to know myself and then go on improving me and myself until I reach the goal. And now he's saying that I'm not even this thing. So everything that this thing does is not really me. Now that's a leap. I mean, it took me decades to kind of absorb the truth of that. But it's like your body is doing your personality is doing one thing, but you as the soul are innocent of all of the things that that personality does. That doesn't mean you don't have to kind of correct things, but you're correcting things from the standpoint of you're ultimately innocent. I mean,
That sounds like a win-win situation.
yeah, this is a tremendous leap, but it's good to actually, I mean, when he said that to me, I had to just file it away and say, well, I will, I'll think about that later, because I had no place to put it. But it starts as a termite, and it starts working away at your, at your consciousness, and opens up a different way of looking at yourself. But it doesn't happen right away. But I'm glad that I heard it, because the termites eventually ate away some profound misconceptions that I had. But anyway, we'll get back to that at some point.
Yes. Well, for me, I feel like I'm not going to experience my limitless soul until I experience God realization. But I can play with that concept because I do have a little more access to I am not the body and I am not the mind. I have a little more access to that. Sometimes thoughts come in and it seems like a radio. Sometimes they're mine, but sometimes they're things I don't even believe in. And I go, what is that thought? One time I asked Margaret Kraft, I was bothered by this mind activity. And I said, Margaret, sometimes I think things I don't even believe in. I mean, they come across my mind. And she said, well, they don't stick, do they, dear? I said, well, no, they don't stick. I was like, no, they don't stick. I kick them out. I just, I get all my knickers in a twist and she goes, as long as they don't stick, dear, that's when you have the problem. And I've always loved that because certainly there are thoughts I have that do stick and I do wrestle with for a very long time until I realize that they're false. And then after that, I can realize, oh, well, that's a sanskara. That is not me. I'm not defined by my thoughts. I can let them go. And Mara one time said to me about emotions. She said, well, that's just a feeling. And when she said it, that's all she said. But there was a power with it that just unlocked a key in my consciousness, I guess, or my understanding, how little weight a feeling really should have. How it was like a feather to her. Just a feeling, just, don't let it upset you. and because we're not our feelings either. So it's kind of through that I access the, we're innocent because we are the limitless soul. We're not those feelings, all the other things. We get mesmerized for a time and think we are. Thanks.
Yeah, excellent. Like very clear. That inner dynamics is well expressed. Yeah.
And Janaki?
Hi. So yeah, this is regarding the issue about guilt. And what comes to my mind is that discussion we were having before the meeting started on will versus free will versus how much free will do we have. And most things I think are already in the can. They're done. Not a leaf moves without Baba's will. So I also think about guilt as being just another ego prop. So I just think that while we have to look at what we did and change our behavior if we can't get stuck there, because if we do, then it's just one more item holding us back.
Yeah. So true. Yeah, I find if I keep being guilty about something, I'm gonna after too many days, I'm gonna do it again because I'm keeping it alive. Yeah.
Right. And Heidi.
I thought I'd share something I found today. I've been doing an inventory of some of the old Baba materials I have, and I don't know where I got it, but I have something called The Moving Finger Rites by Mayor Baba, Part 2. I don't have Part 1. But there's a section on forgive and forget. And I'll just read half of it because it seems pertinent. People ask God for forgiveness, but since God is everything and everyone, who is there for him to forgive? Forgiveness of the created was already there in his act of creation. But still people ask God's forgiveness and he forgives them. But they, instead of forgetting that for which they ask forgiveness, forget that God has forgiven them, and instead remember the things they were forgiven. And so nourish the seed of wrongdoing, and it bears its fruit again. Just like you just said, Jeff. Again and again, they plead for forgiveness, and again, the Master says, I forgive. But it is impossible for men to forgive their wrongdoings and the wrongs done to them by others. And since they cannot forget, they find it hard to forgive. But forgiveness is the best charity. It is easy to give the poor money and goods when one has plenty, but to forgive is hard. But it is the best thing if one can do it. It goes on and on, talking about forgiveness of others. So it's another page.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was kind of neat.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And Janet Jacobs?
Yes. The other side of that, I'm not guilty, is that I am purity. And it just made me, I'm not exactly sure. I just, where was it recently that I just read that Mani was saying after a group of them had pressed Baba's legs and arms as they were asked to do, and then afterwards she was just sitting there, and without any words she could just feel the purity. And so I guess I'm just trying to relate self-effacement and I am purity, because this chapter was a lot about self-effacement too, as I recall from last week. And so, yeah, how do those two interrelate, I'm wondering?
Anyone there that can respond? That occurs.
And Robin had their hand up before that question.
Oh, we'll come back to you, Janet.
Okay.
Okay, I think mine's already been answered, but if I understood what you said, these samskaras are affecting our mind, our body, our emotions, but not who we are. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Soul level.
Was that Anne who spoke?
Yeah.
Good. Janet, say that again. Go back to that.
Okay. All right. So in this chapter, there was a lot of conversation about self-esteem and self-effacement. And then it ends, the chapter ends on this note of I am purity. And I'm just curious how self-effacement and I am purity, how they interface with one another. Does that make sense, Jeff?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we can actually get some experience of being effaced so that we kind of experience that Baba is the doer. I mean, that's ideally a self-effacement, is that you become a vehicle and Baba lives through you to whatever extent you're able to do that. Then you get a sense that things are coming from him and not from you. So you don't feel as guilty as you would, because you know that things originate from Baba. But these are very deep states. I mean, these are, it's hard to get. I mean, Darwin's talking about these places, these internal places. And when you kind of reach those places, these kind of words become experiences, you know, rather than just theories, or, you know. But to bridge those, self-effacement or how they interface is not easy.
Yeah, I mean, because that purity, all right, I am not guilty, I am purity. And so then a sense, I mean, is this what you're saying, Jeff? It's not an intellectual, it's a body felt or experiential felt, heartfelt and soul felt feeling of I am purity. I mean, I can certainly say those words, but to really embody it is a very, like you said, it's a much deeper thing, I think. Or
yeah.
It's self-effacement. I certainly know what that feels like. And usually for me, it feels like if Baba gives me the grace, not always, but if he gives me the grace to accept it and to go, oh, okay, this is self-effacement, I realize that usually it's my ego that's getting effaced and not my soul. And so it's, you know, losing something that I really want to lose. But in the beginning, I mean, when I'm feeling it, I'm feeling like I am the ego, you know, like I am being slighted or, you know, so whatever it is. And then if I just kind of accept it and he gives me that grace to go, this is self-effacement, just accept it. Then after that, I go, oh God, that was really my ego acting up. And the purity part for me is just thinking of Baba as my true self and his purity, because I can say the words too, but I'm not there yet. But just by saying those words, I am purity, even though I may not necessarily fully embody it ever, it does detach me from that false self that I'm trying to detach from. It puts me more with him and less with my ego, and bruised or not. So I don't know if that helps, but that's my experience.
thank you, that helped a lot.
One key thing came to my mind, which is the word awareness, self-awareness, which will open up these things to me to acknowledge and understand.
I tend to be pretty simple, but I don't think I have purity and I don't think I have love, but Baba in me does.
Yeah.
And that's where I have to go. And I really believe that in Baba, there's no judgment. There just isn't any. It's like, you know, when push comes to shove, he just loves us and there's no judgment. He understands us and his compassion is so infinite that it's something we can rely on. But in myself, I don't really have it. I don't think.
Yeah, no. Well expressed, beautifully expressed. Yeah. In ourselves, we're well, like last time we were talking about where Erich said, I knew that I was a scoundrel. But because Baba is so infused in him, he is, as Erich, he might be guilty, so to speak, but as Erich embodied by Baba, he is that source of purity and innocence. Yeah.
Very nice. And Larry, go ahead.
I've always wondered how, if Meher Baba is God, I don't think it's possible theologically for God to be aware of sin or any of this stuff. So I always looked at it as, Baba is pure and my essential nature is pure, perfect, whole, and complete. And anything that has to do with sanskaras being burnt off is probably a process that I think is very suitable for me. It's like I have this relationship with Meher Baba, but as I evolve, there's things that come between he and I, my sanskaras. But that's kind of like separate from my relationship with him.
Yeah.
And
Good.
what he's doing within me. This is kind of like, if I fantasize about it, I'll drop this body, I'll have a wonderful 14-day period with Meher Baba, and as he said we would, and then I'm going to get to the point, I'm going to go, where's the cleaners? I feel so weird here because I need to do some work. And that's when somebody's going to usher me off and we go to the Sanskara cleaning room. I mean, my relationship with Baba is intact and it's beautiful. And that's what I hold on to. The rest of the stuff, yes, I'll deal with it. I've been dealing with it for over 4 million lifetimes. But it's the relationship that I kind of try to emphasize. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, very good. Very good. Like your relationship with Baba is separate from your relationship with your son's scars, so to speak. It's a different, very
I
good.
don't know if that's the right way to look at it. Maybe somebody has a different opinion, but
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite quotes from Meher Baba. I am whatever anyone takes me to be. Divine grace supersedes all laws. It's not conditioned or dependent upon any precedent. This is what Meher Baba really is, divine grace. But we are in the habit of building limitations and finiteness into our consciousness. Through unconscious programming, stocking our subconscious with limiting beliefs, we have schooled our minds in limitations, and our minds have become tyrannous. Because of this, we put conditions on Baba's ability to change things within us. And we also place limits on our own ability. All these limitations we believe to be real are entirely self-programmed. We do well to keep in mind Meher Baba's words, all finitehood and limitations are subjective and self-created. We are engaging in such programming all the time, but are mostly unconscious of it. Instead of being victimized by everything that comes along, we have to begin to understand what we are programming in our own minds, in our own consciousness. And we discover where we can exercise the valuable use of faith and confidence. As Jesus said, when you pray, believe that you have received and you shall receive. Meher Baba has said essentially the same thing on various occasions, such as, whatever one thinks of deeply, one becomes that. And he has indicated that if you want to be free, you will become free. If you really want God, you will become God realized. That is why it is important to be aware of how we are programming things, how we are imposing limiting paradigms on our consciousness. Mayor Baba says, a new line in the divine picture is sketched only when some individual takes life forcefully in his hands, breaks up the old patterns, and insists on creating something new by his own inner vision. As spiritual aspirants, the new paradigm we need to create includes the supreme qualities of purity, self-effacement, and love. To counteract the old paradigm, we need to assert those qualities as our prototype so that this paradigm can emerge.
Yeah.
That is so powerful.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Any comments? Anything to bring up?
Jeff, can I just say something about the quote that started this? I am what anyone takes me to be.
Yeah.
It just seems in looking at the world, in looking at all our differences and looking at all conflict, if we could only all remember this, that would all dissolve, because there are so many different illusory approaches to God. And so many people think that there are differences. But really what Baba's saying here is, if you want to believe that I'm Jesus, that's fine. If you want to believe I'm Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, Ram, whatever, I'm all of that. If you take me to be that, I am that. And so that is like a prescription for healing the world.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yep. Yeah. Hey, John, can we, I mean, I don't know if I'm interjecting here, but can you kind of, would it take you long to describe that first time when you went into the original kitchen?
Oh, I'd be happy to. I hope it doesn't take too
Yeah,
long.
this is John's first meeting with Darwin, but yeah, it's just share. It's well worth hearing.
Well, let me say that before I got to the center, I knew absolutely nothing about Meher Baba. This was in 1971, and I saw his picture in the Student Union at the University of Vermont. Called up the center, well, called up the operator in South Carolina. In those days, we had payphones on the wall, and said, I understand that I've heard that there's some center in South Carolina that has to do with Meher Baba. And the operator very nicely looked it up and told me, oh yeah, that's the Meher Center in Myrtle Beach. So I called up the center and said, my spring break is coming up for my senior year, and can I come down to the center and spend my week there? And they said, sorry, we're full. So I hung up the phone and decided, I've got to go anyway. It was that poster that I saw, the ancient one, you know, where Baba looks like Jesus with long hair. And he said, I was Krishna, I was Jesus, I was this one, I was that one, and now I'm Meher Baba. And I thought, wow, what an outrageous claim that is. I didn't know anything about him. And then I thought, well, what happens if it's true? If it's true, I got to go check this out. So I drove 18 hours from Burlington, Vermont, down to the Meher Center and had a number of adventures on the way. And checked in with Kitty and Elizabeth. They were really wonderful people I had never met before, but they really filled me with more love for Baba. And I was just, as I say, extremely new. I only knew about Baba for days, just having seen this poster, the ancient one, but didn't know really any details. So they directed me how to get on the center, and I parked the car and walked in and walked into the original kitchen. And there was a really unassuming man at the other end of the original kitchen, which in those days didn't include the refectory or the porch, just the original kitchen there. And he was just talking very softly to a group small group of people around him. And then all of a sudden, white light blasted out of this man. I'd never experienced anything like it. The white light that came out of him totally not only consumed the room, but consumed me, flowed outside, flowed everywhere as far as I could see. It filled up my very small vessel and overflowed. And I was just totally overwhelmed in bliss by this white light. And I remember thinking, wow, I know this person isn't Meher Baba. Who is this person? If someone who's a lover of Meher Baba could be just filled with and able to blast me with this incredible white light, imagine what Meher Baba himself must be like. And that was the moment I became a Baba lover, and also realized that for the rest of my life, my ultimate goal was to share that wonderful love and bliss that Darwin Shaw had conveyed. Like Darwin himself used to say, you need to be the wire and let the Baba's current pass through you. That was the amazing love of Meher Baba that passed through Darwin to me. And it was so powerful and beautiful that I will never forget it. And maybe remember for lifetimes, who knows?
Beautiful. Thank you. Really. That sounds like Darwin.
One other thing, Jeff, and that is I remember some years later talking with his wife, Jean, and I told her this story about Darwin, and she kind of shrugged in a matter-of-fact way and just said, to me, he's just my husband that takes out the garbage.
And
That was an incredible story. I don't know if this is thinking too far into this. Do you think Darwin was conscious of what happened in the kitchen, or is that just something that sort of happened and maybe there was an unawareness of it on his part?
So years later, when Darwin was very, very old, and I think Jeff was actually one of the people that was taking care of him at that time when he was living in Little River. And I had called up because I was visiting the center and asked to speak with him. And I was told, well, he's just so ill now, he's not talking to anyone. So I said, well, can you just convey to Darwin that I love him and I'm going to be on the center and I'll be thinking about him? Because he was in his 90s and really very close to the end of his life. So I was sitting in the reading room of the Dilruba Library by myself, and the door opens and in walks Darwin, and he said, I heard, John, that you wanted to talk to me. And that was pretty astounding. Like Darwin was over and over again. Anyway, he sat down and we started to talk, and that was one of the questions I asked him, Anthony, was, were you aware of this light that came out of you and just overwhelmed me? All he did was just give me a smile, and it was a beautiful smile at that.
Wow. Thank you. That's incredible. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I did have a quick comment about the passage there. Let me see if I can get my train of thought. It made me think back to the previous, I think it was either last week or the week before that, where Darwin talked about kind of combining the opposites of the different divine qualities, patience, self-effacement with, oh my God, what was it? I'm losing my train of thought here. Combining like the self-effacement with the courageousness and with those qualities.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, it struck me reading this about just the role, the active role that we have to take in thinking of ourselves as more than what we are, and getting past this programming and this limitation. And, I know I think the spiritual teachings are excellent that talk about these passive qualities, like, letting go and letting God, relaxing and letting God be in the driver's seat, and these things that kind of assume that we're, kind of deactivating our egos and stepping back and letting God be the driver, which is totally the case. But when you read something like this and you realize that part of it actually does take our active action to, to think of ourselves as more, to act in a way with confidence, to, so I'm seeing if I'm making sense here. It's just, it strikes me how much we have to take an active role in that, in rethinking of ourselves, of what, the limited, meek little, being that we've thought that we've been for all of these years. And it's so ingrained in us to think like that. For instance, what's coming to mind is leadership, and a new job that I'm taking. Leadership is a huge thing, and I've never really been in that role like that. And you see people that those qualities come so effortless to them, and I've never thought of myself in that way before. But to people that don't place those limitations on themselves, it's totally normal to be in that role of being a leader, of having that confidence. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that these things aren't all passive processes. They do require us to step into new roles, to adopt new ways of thinking, to step up to the plate, and to realize that we're much more than what we've always thought. So I don't know, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. And that goes to that beautiful line there, a new line in the divine picture is sketched. That, that second to the last paragraph of taking your life in and break up the old patterns.
Yeah.
Creating a vision for yourself. Yeah.
All right, Heidi.
Okay. Yeah, I just found the one statement connecting all the dots. And it says, Mayor Baba says, a new line in the divine picture is sketched only when some individual takes life forcefully in his hands, breaks up the old patterns, and insists on creating something new by his own inner vision. And that is so powerful. And what struck me about it was some of the, I think the Christian metaphysical books that Darwin pretty much was aware of, and the religious science and science of mind works, speak about this, taking your life in your own hands and breaking up some patterns. And I wanted to mention one that was really helpful to me that I found at the center in 1975. I'll never forget it. It's a book called In Tune with the Infinite by Ralph Waldo Trine. And he talks about exactly this. And I can't help but think that Darwin was connected with it. And there's another author named Neville Goddard, and he talks about every night doing what he calls the law of revision. And he says, well, if you've made mistakes during the day and you're upset with yourself and so forth and so on, you could redesign it and just rewrite the day or the scene or whatever you want to change, rewrite it the way you want it, and have that vision instead. And it sounds kind of weird, but it works. You're sort of playing, you're putting some self-responsibility. Well, I made a mistake. I want to change it. How would it look if I didn't do that, if I didn't make that mistake? And you know what I'm saying? And you're in tune, then you get in tune with the higher nature. But I know that book, In Tune with the Infinite, kind of captures some of this, because the light of God, you're kind of allowing the light of Baba to come through you in the way it can as an individual. But this was really powerful, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. And in way you're saying, you can reprogram your mistake, you reprogram your response or your reaction to your mistakes. So that,
yeah, like well, Neville Goddard, I like him a lot. But he, yeah, he had this little piece called The Law of Revision, and it sort of it relieved me of a lot of stress, especially when I was working and had a leadership role, Anthony, and it was rough. And I had to pretend that I was confident just to survive the crazy making of it. It wasn't funny at all. And I'm little, so, you know, people would try all kinds of things. And I think to I'd be quiet and I said, okay, bring it on, because you're just exposing yourself to me if you try to, you know, be weird. But it was rough. And I did some good things with Baba's help, but I made a lot of mistakes. And I would always try to revise it. And if I couldn't have time to read something that was helpful to me, I heard Baba say, sounds real strange, but it works too. I heard Baba say to me one time, oh, just sleep with my books. Just sleep with it. Don't worry about it. And I thought, sleep with it? And I thought, okay. So I put a line up, you know, I had Baba and I had metaphysical books, like 5 of them, you know, right there by the pillows, and I went to sleep. And about a couple of weeks later, I realized that I was recalling some helpful things when I was in trouble, like, and I didn't know where they came from. Then I go back, look at the book. Oh, there it is. You know, so it kind of was full circle, you know, but this kind of allowing Baba's light to take care of you in all kinds of ways is nice to do. There's also one book else I'll mention that's fun by a woman named Florence Shin, and she wrote a book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And that's a real fun book. But it ties all this together, the using the divine and being in touch with Christ consciousness and Baba, and how to apply it in daily life, how to apply yourself and change things that you don't, you know, 'cause like even in the previous chapter, I just noticed this too. It said here, if we have an ego, if we must have an ego stance, then why not identify with the statement I am purity instead of I am guilty? So is that saying Darwin's helping us understand that we have some choices? If we have an ego anyway, we might as well choose.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Okay, Angela.
And Tina had her hand up.
I just remember this one quote from Baba where he said, if you're an actor, you should think you're the greatest actor in the world.
Yeah.
So he wants us to have...
Bring out the confidence.
Yeah.
And Paula Roper.
Well, here's an Agnes Barron bumper sticker. She said to me to have, what did she say? She said, not to have confidence in oneself is ego, and to have confidence in oneself is Baba, is God.
Yeah.
This is a good bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Something that when I was in India one time too, I think I might have told people this before, but I was at the Samadhi and I said, Baba, just take it all, you know, just here, just go ahead, take it. And I heard him loud and clear say, well, I will, but you have to know what you're giving me. So yeah, he wants that awareness. Thank you. And now I have to figure out my computer.
Yeah. Yeah, Darwin said you can't heal what you don't feel. The deeper the healing, the deeper the feeling, the deeper the healing. It takes awareness. Instead of, here, Baba, hand it over to him like a child would, Okay.
Programmed suffering. In some ways, we are our own worst enemies. We tend to unconsciously program negative suggestions, thus dissipating our forces without realizing it. The consequence is that we suffer. But Meher Baba says that 99% of human suffering is unnecessary. He goes on to say, through obstinate ignorance, people inflict suffering upon themselves and their fellow beings. And then, strangely enough, they ask, why should we suffer? I believe that the 1% necessary suffering is the poignant suffering of the surgery necessary to become free, to let go of limitations. Our self-imposed suffering persists because we do not trust God and turn everything over to Him. In Meher Baba's My Wish, where Baba says, when you suffer, think Baba wants me to suffer, I believe that he's telling us to turn away from our self-programming, to be open to God's plan for us, His programming. It is not that Baba wants us to suffer, but that he wants us to put focus on him as a way of stopping the cycle of unconscious programming.
Yeah, we hear you.
I really fell into this one where he says 99% of your worrying is unnecessary. In my whole life, up until I became a Baba lover, I worried about everything. And I always prepared for the worst. And I always made up a whole scenario of what might happen and how I was going to handle it. And my reasoning was that, well, at least I was prepared then. But 99% of the time, it never happened. So it was all needless worrying. And I decided that's no way to live. It put too much stress on me and on my life. And I don't do that anymore, thank God. And I have him to thank for that.
Beautiful. There's a line from Mark Twain where he says, I've been through many trials and tribulations in this life, and most of them never happened.
Yeah. Larry.
Oh, I just wanted to say that, it's interesting. 99% of all human suffering is unnecessary. And yet, in the Baba community, when something happens horrible, people are really quick to assume that it's something Meher Baba's doing to them. I've run into people, somebody will be looking for a job, for example, and they'll talk about all the difficulties they've had finding the job. And then they'll end up and say, but Baba wants me to go through this, he's evident, on and on and on. And at the same time, I know that the person's not finding a job because either they're dressed incorrectly for an interview or they've got hygiene problems. And I'm going, it's so interesting. That person's blaming that situation on poor Baba. And they're in the 99%. And I see that all the time here. And then when I put on my other hat, because I'm like the only ordained religious science minister who's a Baba lover, those people in that group, they don't settle for that at all. You say to somebody, oh, I hear you've had a difficult time finding a job. That person will look at me and say, yes, it's been a challenge, but you know what? I'm going to get one because I know who I am and I know I'm working with the universe that's on my side and I'm going for it. And I go, perfect. I mean, the attitude is like so different. I feel sorry for Baba sometimes. All his lovers just go, oh, Baba's just putting me through this. And it's like, no, he's not. You're creating 99% of this, you know? So my idea is always, don't assume Baba's doing something to you. Assume, number one, your divine connection to him and that you're an expression of him. I think it'll tend to do away with a lot of our problems that we're facing. That's just my idea, for what it's worth.
Yeah, very good, Larry. Very good.
And I'm interested, you know, why is it? I mean, because I move in different spiritual circles, and the temperament, I mean, there's some really beautiful things about the Meher Baba community. That's why I'm a Meher Baba lover and follower. You know, there's nothing like Meher Baba. But when I see the difference in temperament, why is it that Meher Baba people don't have this energy to go for it and to just break through everything? I just don't sense that in my many years of interacting with Baba people. And I'm just curious whether anybody knows why that is.
That's good. Very good.
And just one last comment. And I also realized too, you know, Baba said, I am whatever anyone takes me to be. And so what I take Baba to be may not be what other people take Baba to be. And an interesting thing is, the Baba lover in the West does not have the same conception as the Baba lovers in the East. It's impossible culturally. So we all, in our own expression, because of our personalities, do take him differently. And I really respect that difference.
Very good, Larry. Very good.
I'm sorry, I'm an old preacher. When I get out of it, it's Sunday, I'm ready to preach.
Yeah. And I've seen that over the years myself, too.
I had a question, but anyway, Larry, I want to hear you preach sometime, by the way. Well, I had a thought on that about why we do that. And I think people get stuck in fatalism. And I think it's probably cultural and how we were raised, you know, our educational system. But to me, it's the old dialectic between free will and predetermination. And of course, you could talk about that for years. But I guess my question is somewhat similar. How is it that we remain frozen in patterns that we want to get out of? And maybe, Larry, maybe you have an insight or someone else. If you want to get out of a pattern and yet you feel frozen in it, what is it you need to do? What questions do you need to ask in order to break through into something different? I guess that is really saying, how does one get out of unconscious programming if you may not know what the unconscious programming is? Maybe that's the question.
Excellent question. Larry, why don't you tackle that?
Well, there are processes for doing that. And I used to teach those processes. And the important thing, because what I did, the ministry that I do, and I haven't been doing it lately, officially, but somebody used to come in, make an appointment with me and have a problem. And I used to have to, number one, listen to their problem and try to figure out what negative programming they were coming from. And I always mentally used to look at it, in a very Eastern way, that this is all a movie and everybody has their own movie going on. And so when this person used to come in, I used to think, oh, this is this person's movie. What's creating this movie as opposed to another movie? So I used to deal with the person and their beliefs. And then I used to go through a process that would help them change these beliefs and give them a sense of their position in divinity, so that they could take a stand as to their real nature and who they really were as an expression of God. So there's lots of different techniques that they use for doing that. When I get a new person off the street that has never been in a New Thought church or religious science church or unity church, the first thing I have to do with that person in training is I have to get them to think about and consider what God is. Because people have a misinterpretation of what God is and how God operates. And that is the first thing. And if I can establish with that person their relationship with the divine, then I've helped them solve a lot of problems. If that all makes sense. I know it sounds very confusing.
Well, I've read the whole Science of Mind book and participated in that for a long time, but it's been a long time ago. But how would you translate that into Baba language so that it's, and Baba, kind of the background of Baba thinking and what Baba had said?
In religious science, they like to think of God more as an impersonal God.
Mm.
So the only thing that's different is if you're a Meher Baba person and you wanted to incorporate some of the same ideas, you would have to think less of the impersonal God and make it very personal as Meher Baba, which is a very easy thing to do. So that's how you would change that and make it what you're dealing with Meher Baba's the avatar as your personal God.
I guess I still feel like I don't understand, but that's me. Maybe there's some other people who have some ideas.
I feel like it's a conversation for perhaps another time.
Yeah, I think so.
Focus on effort and grace for a moment.
Sorry. Okay.
And it comes around to this at various stages in this book. Yeah.
It does, actually.
Heidi, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, to tie this up, that and tie it into effort and grace, is that I think Baba works with all of us to be more aware and conscious and ignite an integration of spiritual truths, and whatever practical exercises or sciences work for you. I know he certainly does draw literature and people and all kinds of things to enhance our experiences, and just to trust that. That's all I wanted to say, because that's what it's about. And you have to do your own work. I remember when I discovered all this stuff that Larry was talking about and used it, I was really motivated to look at this and change, because whatever was interfering in my life was interfering with my thought and loving Baba. That's where it boils down to. Whatever's interfering with your relationship with Baba, it's disturbing. And I know a lot of people stay there because it's comfortable and they seek help, but you do have to kind of strip yourself of it, just like Effort and Grace says. You have to take a bold stand to change it. And everybody will, because Baba's in charge anyway. So everybody will eventually, right, Jeff?
Yep. Like Monty said, it all has a happy ending.
It'll have a happy ending.
At first, I was going to say I apologize for sounding like a broken record, but then I realized be the broken record and just keep saying his name, and all this stuff is meaningless because our destiny is already written. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, very well said. And Paula?
Yeah, this is was something that Larry said, but I thought about it, and it's like Bob doesn't do anything to me. Everything he does is for me, and thank goodness he's there to help with what he gives me. That's for me. But it's all that was back somewhere.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful way of looking at it. Not being done to you, but for you, out of love.
And Nancy Fergal?
Hi. Yes, I'd like to respond to Elizabeth's query. And I find my understanding right in this passage so beautifully, because here Baba is telling us, all things are as we think they are. So right here, the question, second paragraph, because of this, we put conditions on Baba's ability to bring about changes within us. And we also place limits on our own ability. So then Baba tells us all finitehood, limitations are subjective, self-created. So, and then he goes to tell us to be forceful and look at those patterns and, see what they are. And then we get the qualities at the last paragraph. Brings in the qualities. I don't know. I find so much of the answer there, Elizabeth, in those paragraphs, and in our discussion. So, Jay Bobbin, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, it's Darwin was more of taking a proactive approach to breaking up our patterns, as Baba says there, and with the idea of getting free.
And Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering what everybody's take on this was, and Jeff and Angela, you can throw in your take on it too. I feel like sometimes when I read Baba, I hear him giving us kind of the freedom to take the initiative to employ whatever techniques we feel necessary to break out of the limitations and the particular challenges that are unique to each individual. Whatever those techniques might be, something from another spiritual path or just something we happen to do on our own, or whatever technique might help, no matter where it comes from. And then certain other things I read by Baba, it sounds like he is kind of encouraging us to just really tightly stick to him and kind of do what he says. And some other Baba lovers earlier in the year really helped me out with this a lot. And they were, they kind of said there's tremendous diversity with it in the Baba world. Some people more take some of his orders as, yes, stick to him as closely as possible with everything he told you to do, like remembering his name, meditating on his image, his picture, bringing his picture before your mind's eye. And then a lot of others have felt, that he wasn't being that literal, that, if you do find something from another tradition or some other type of technique, to use whatever you need to get yourself out of the quagmires you're in. So yeah, I was just curious what some people from the group felt about that.
Beautiful. Yeah. Any Any responses there? Well, I'll just say I kind of take on board my boat, my ship, whatever works, whatever keeps my enthusiasm and inspiration going. And it could come from all different directions. You know, it could be a time when Eckhart Tolle is kind of echo is is appealing to the inner work that I'm doing, or it could be something creative that is gets me. But whatever kind of keeps my enthusiasm up, and what you worked yesterday may not work today. I'm continually changing the whatever works. But I think I've always felt Bob has given me the freedom to just be true to the enthusiasm that I need in life with him, and it can come with playing with kids or playing volleyball. It could be a lot of different things. There isn't an orthodox method. You might say something like I've benefited a lot from other Baba people. They've given me thoughts, ways of remembering Baba that I hadn't even considered, and I'll incorporate them, and they work, and they become part of my way of remembering Baba. So I'm a little bit more liberal in taking things on.
Wow, that's beautiful. I've felt that too, and it just seems like the things naturally show up in your life that you kind of need, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I find, Anthony, that reading Effort and Grace over and over and over again, read parts of it every day if you can. And then what happens is, as you encounter certain diversions or you encounter certain circumstances, then a quote from Darwin pops into your mind that seems to go with whatever circumstances you need to deal with. And I found that very helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And Peter?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I got on a meeting late, but my God, what a topic. This topic has blown my mind in a way. Larry, thank you for bringing it up. And to attempt to keep this as simple as possible for the time frame. When I came to Mayor Baba 25 years ago, and I did the exercise to see how do I perceive God, who's God to me, just to be as factual as I can, I saw him as being an evil dictator. And when I went through a written inventory of my fears and resentments, and there was a lot of dysfunction in my family, there was no way I was going to accept responsibility for it. I didn't do any of that. I didn't make my family this and that. And to rely on Mayor Baba, I look at him as being a dictator. Why would I go to him for anything unless I absolutely, positively had to? And I was all about blame. I didn't do this. I didn't create this mess. And then as I evolved, now he's come to be my father, like the King of Kings. But it took 25 years to do that. But still in the back of my mind, I'm like, is this me or is this Baba doing it? Gulp. For me, to me, it's still a bit of a mystery. And I have to use every spiritual tool, every discourse I can find about Mayor Baba to prove myself wrong, because I know it's like there was a small impotence in me, a divine pulse to say, what if I'm wrong? And he's not a dictator, but he really is for me rather than against me. And that was a long inner journey that I'm still on. But I was all for, look, this wasn't my fault. I didn't do any of this. Why did God do it to me? And I can go on and on and on, but that was part of my belief system, and that I'm still wrestling with. And I mean, there could be more of a conversation, but to keep it simple and light now, well, not light, but to try to keep it simplified, I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Yeah, well expressed, Peter. Yep. And the evolution of all these things.
I just wanted to share something that was very close for me and very helpful to me. When I went to India and I met Erich, and I was in a tremendous turmoil internally and mentally. You know, those thoughts that are self-defeating were just flying all through my head. And so I made an appointment and I sat with Erich in his little space, and I said, you know, Erich, all the people out there, they're dancing and singing and so light and so in love with Baba. And I'm having issues about even believing that Baba is who he says he is. You know, I came from my heart. When I came to Baba, it was through my heart. And now my head is just taking the lead. And he said, well, it's okay, sister. He said, just put this on the back burner. Meher Baba is who he says he is. And then as for your mind, he said, just make friends with your mind. Tell your mind that it has brought you to the place you are today, that it is through your education that you're allowed to have a fine job and good pay. And thank him for all the schooling that brought you to where you are. And tell your mind that it will take you to Meher Baba. And so that helped to lighten that conflict with my mind and to actually think about my mind as a friend instead of a foe, and to help me find some paths towards that friendship with my own mind about all things. And so I just wanted to share that. I hope it helps somebody.
Wonderful from Erich.
So on the question that Anthony raised about how do we choose whether we follow, just stick to Baba, or we explore other avenues that might be working for us. And I know that for me, my belief is that Baba is everything. That Ernest Holmes wrote, there is not God and something else. So if something is presented to me that doesn't have Baba's name on it, I still consider it to be from Baba. And I use it in that spirit. So it's not Baba or something else. It's Baba, and it's helpful to me. That's my point of view.
Yep, perfect. Good. And that comes from Rhode Island too.
Yes.
Nice. And Stuart.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add into the mix here. I agree with what Betty just said and some others. And just by way of example, psychology in different forms, therapies have had a big role in the Baba world. There's a lot of Baba psychologists and therapists, and I know they bring the spirit of Baba into what they do. You know, but just those forms can be of help also.
Yeah.
And Cindy, James?
Hi, I just wanted to share that a number of years ago in, a meditation or prayer with Baba, I heard Baba say this, and it's come back so many times, him saying to me, you can do anything you want. I'm 100% supportive of you. You can be this, you can be that, you can do this, do that. But you have to remember one thing in all of whatever it is you do is that it doesn't mean anything. Like you can do whatever you want. And what I noted that it doesn't mean anything about my value. You know, just don't get attached to it. But Baba just saying, go play in the universe with whatever it is you want. Play with whatever roles you want, whatever you want to do. But remember one thing, it doesn't mean anything. He already unconditionally loves me and supports me and will give me whatever I want. So that's how I kind of come to all of these, you know, how to do it is just the non-attachment to it having to do with my value. That's already infinitely decreed.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Nice, Cindy.
Well, he may not give you everything you want.
You can try. You can try. It. Yeah. Whatever you get doesn't either add or diminish you because you already have. You're already his.
It is 7 o'clock. Would you like to have a moment of silence?
Yeah. Any last comments before we have a few moments? Okay. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
I have a quick announcement, and that is that today is the anniversary of Meher Baba's visit to Meher Mount in Ojai, California. And to celebrate that, some wonderful Baba musicians, Billy Goodrum and Buzz Connor and a number of others put together a video singing in celebration of Baba's visit to Meher Mount. And it's a very inspiring video.
Cliff Hackford is one of those musicians, by the way.
Yeah. Hey,
that's right. Cliff is one of those too. Yes.
Can it be put on right now?
I have it on my computer right here.
Yeah, let's just put it on. It's you know, it's just the one song, but it's beautiful it was a song written by Mani, Baba's sister.
Right.
Yeah, hold on.
Toward the end of her life.
Here it is.
There's one at the door, Lord, knocking at your door, Lord. Open up the door, Lord. Open up the door. Oh, open up the door, open up the door. I can't stand anymore. Open up the door. This I adore, Lord. This I implore, Lord. I don't ask for more, Lord. Open up the door. Oh, open up the door. Open up the door. I can't stand anymore. Open up the door. I don't need to be so Lord. The plains above the shore, Lord. Just drown me in the cold, Lord. Open up the door. Oh, open up the door. Open up the door. I can't stand anymore, Lord. Open up the door. To your kingly store, Lord, tears and pearls I bore, Lord. My rosary has more, Lord. open up the door. Open up the door. Open up the door. I can't stand anymore, Lord. Open up the door. I kneel upon the floor, Lord, your grace upon me pour, Lord, to be with you forevermore, Lord. Open up the door. Open up the door. I can't stand anymore, Lord. Open up the door. There's someone at your door, Lord, knocking at your door, Lord. Open up the door, Lord. Open up the door. Open up the door. Open up the door. I can't stand anymore, Lord. Open up the door. Open up the door, Lord. Open up the door. I can't stand anymore, Lord. Open up the door. Open up the door. Open up the Avatar mein Baba ki jai. 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 Meher Baba ki jai. Meher Baba ki jai. Meher Baba ki jai. Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar 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 Meher Baba ki jai. Meher, oh Meher. Meher, oh Meher.
nice. Whew.
That was fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
You
Jay
saw,
Baba all.
yeah,
Great to see you today.
you saw Agnes Barron in there, and there's, you might find this interesting about her. She was kind of a prickly sort of person, kind of opinionated and a very strong, forceful lady. Baba called her the kind of watchdog of Meyermount. But she had a heart of gold, and she would, give the shirt off her back to anyone. But when she was driving Baba in 1956 from Meyermount back to LA where Baba was staying, he said to Baba, some people just don't like me. And, there were probably a number of people that kind of found her a little bit abrasive. But Baba turned to her and said, "But I like you." And so later on, so that's all you need. And later on, she went to L.A. with Baba, and she got in an altercation with Ivy Deuce, who was the head of Sufism Reoriented. And afterwards, when she was with Baba, Ivy wasn't there, but she said to Baba, Baba, you say we should love everyone. I can't love everyone. What are you going to do about that? And Baba says, Agnes, you love everybody, you just don't like everybody. And Agnes said, I can live with that. But what a beautiful thing, because she really did love everybody. But her son Scaris didn't like everybody, if you know what I mean. I mean, that's just our sanskars, they don't resonate with certain people and that, but that's not, but really Baba's saying that she loves, and we do really love everybody, but we don't quite know that yet. But he was affirming that in her because she definitely had that great love for people. Yeah.
I always look at it, Jeff, as spiritual essence. We all have baggage.
Yeah.
Everybody has baggage. And when you go see Baba, he's not concerned with the baggage immediately. He's concerned with you.
Yeah. He doesn't care what your costume is. The costume you're wearing, it's your essence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jeff, we could say, I love you, but I don't like your sanskars.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is.
It is.
But we take our sanskars as real, like I don't like that person, so therefore they're really essentially unlikable.
But that can open up a whole conversation to somebody that really never heard the word sanskars, and they'll say, "Hey, what's that?" And then we can.
Well, I just say, your conditioning. Your conditioning
Yeah, I know.
may not harmonize with somebody, but at an essence level, you're always in harmony. Yeah. But there's a line from Idries Shah, who is one of the Sufi teachers, who recognized Bob as the avatar, actually.
Oh.
But he said conflicts at the lower level are in accord at the higher level. So we may, at the lower level, we may not be in accord, but at the higher level, we always are. It doesn't seem like that, but but now here's an exchange. So someone in Mandalay Hall said to Erich, but there's some people, Erich, I just don't like. And other people in Mandalay Hall, they kind of laughed and everything. But Erich kind of thoughtfully said, you may dislike somebody, but never assert that you have the right to dislike anyone. I mean, a very important point. You know, you may find yourself disliking somebody, but you don't have the right to do it. It just happens to be the case. Eventually, you'll overcome the dislike if you're hung out with that person long enough, if circumstances would allow it. Usually doesn't. But that was that quote, Larry, that you mentioned before we began Effort and Grace, that um, all differences between one another are merely superficial and cannot affect the love we feel for each other deep down. Those are Baba's words. So we already love each other. So
Well, we've been with each other a long time.
yeah, we're going to keep bumping into each other for the next 700 years. So you better make peace, better make peace with these people. They're going to help you. I mean, Baba talked about the internal links. We're all the internal links that we have with each other is our support system for the next 700 years. That's my feeling. And Ms. Baba, that was Baba said.
You know, Jeff, what I wonder about is that linkage system that goes between people who are Baba lovers and people who are close to us who are not. And I'm specifically thinking about family members or maybe friends who are not Baba lovers.
Yeah, well, so you're wondering what to do in that case. It doesn't have to be a barrier at all, but it's nice when when you don't have to give the edited version of yourself to somebody. In other words, I have neighbors, if I told them about Baba, they'd think I was, you know, a nutcase. But hey, I'll keep the loving neighborliness that we have. You know, if I bring Baba into the picture, they're going to think that, you know, I'm not afraid to do it, but I want to safeguard the love that we have between us, the warmth we have between us. And if bringing up, saying I'm a follower of Mayor Baba and they happen to be a, you know, a staunch Christian, they may feel a little bit afraid of me, like I'm, you know, a part of some cult. And so, but it needn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't Baba say, I mean, that if someone gets too close to him or is exposed to too much, it's almost like an electrical shock to their system. There was some reference to that somewhere. I mean, it's something I read a long time ago. We get just as much as we can handle.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to calibrate our response to people to keep the love alive, the give and take of love alive. And we don't necessarily have to show all our hand, you know, especially if it wouldn't be understood or actually misunderstood.
Right, misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was somebody that, this is kind of funny, but there was somebody who asked me, this was at the center, whether she should tell her mother that she was devoted to Baba. Now, her mother was like a staunch Catholic, you know, Italian Catholic. And her mother's 84 years old. And not only hasn't she told her about her life with Baba, and she'd been into Baba for about 30 years, she'd taken a number of trips to India, and she had married a guy who was Jewish. She never told her mother any of that. And now she's saying when her mother's 84, whether she should break the news to her mom, you know, come clean about where she's at. I said, I don't know. I said, you know, you have your relationship with your mom. Is she going to really understand you know, that you've married someone that's Jewish and that you've been following some Indian guru for the last 30 years and you've taken these trips to India and you've never told her, is that going to help is that going to help your relationship with your mom today, especially at her age of 84? You know, I'm I don't know what she eventually did, but it's that's funny though that she managed to make go by so many years and keep it all uh, basically under wraps. Alan, you got any things buzzing around there?
Oh, I was thinking
Not
of
used to
how
setting up. Okay.
I was thinking of how Darwin talks about resting in the first cause of things, or resting in the first cause, and that word first cause, and how Meher Baba is that first cause. So rather than the circumstances that we find ourselves in, like, oh, I went to the store and somebody talked badly to me, and therefore I act like this, instead of making this illusion the first cause of all of our problems and the first cause of everything. It's actually Meher Baba that we go to first. But when he says resting in full in that faith, the
Yeah.
fullness of that faith, uh, that's the only thing that is, I would say, the sustaining note in everything else that is falling away and changing. Regardless of my opinions and my feelings about everything, he is the only sustaining note in all of it. But the resting in that sometimes gets pretty complicated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean we haven't quite got to that. That's in the next couple of subchapters where Darwin talks about it's the one time he really gets a little bit esoteric, where he talks about the universal mind and our relationship with it, and also the assertion of first cause. I mean, those are. I'm hoping that you guys can read that ahead, just and try to try to find a way of describing it because it's very valuable, but it's hard to describe what what that dynamic is. The dynamic with dynamic with first cause and universal mind.
Well,
But we'll keep.
it seems to be like a practical, like how to put that in practice in your daily life. Like, what does it mean to hold on to Baba, or to, it really sort of, if you really actively try that out in the present moment, or when you're doing everything you're doing, it really, it kind of shifts like in that chapter we read, it's like the divine line gets kind of like turned over to a different, you start kind of moving in a different direction uh, when you're tuning into Baba's rhythm in this particular moment.
Yeah. Oh, it's like changing frequencies. If you can get that his frequency, things flow beautifully. At least from the interior. And then you get off of the static station of the local the local pop station into something far more soothing and beautiful. And we're and I mean Darwin used to say, and I feel it's important to keep in mind that we are having deep experiences as we go along without necessarily realizing. We are having moments when we are at a very close proximity to Baba. We may not even be in know, or some of our loving acts come from the deepest place, even though when we pick them up, they're down here on the gross level. But a lot of the inspiration is coming from deeper levels, and we're linked into Baba much more deeply than we might give ourselves credit for. Sometimes we're drawing inspiration from higher levels. in our creative work, in the efforts we make to be helpful to somebody, we're drawing not just from our own sanskaras, we're drawing from deep within. And I think it's important to know that that's going on. I mean, Darwin was really said people are drawing from all sorts of higher levels when they're doing things, even though they are just picking it up as it comes through on the, say, on the gross level. Where did that creative project, that creative, where did that poem, where did that song come from? Sometimes they come from very deep places. Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not just yeah, we're not just kind of just shifting our sanskaras around, trying to get a little better arrangement or configuration of our sanskaras. Dorothy, what you have to say over there? Whoop.
Louder.
We're talking to New Jersey here, folks.
I'm speechless tonight. I'm a sponge.
Yeah.
I really need to hear these things.
Yeah, I know everybody's working on, we're all working on very familiar territory. I'm working on it today, you're working on it tomorrow. Someone else is this very, very basic themes.
Yes, and it's so reassuring. It just feels like mana.
I think if we were to describe how we were before Baba and now after many years where we are, it would be so touching what he has done, but it happens so gradually you don't notice how much he has changed our life.
I'd like to share something. So the first ever virtual Youth Sahavas is going on right now this weekend, right. And Michelle's been part of it, and I think the energy is pretty cool. And today, I just felt like these roller coasters of feelings, like from really happy to just existential sadness. I had to know where it was coming from, and then just laughing and like, well, Baba's just doing whatever. It doesn't even matter what the feelings are. They're just going to keep coming and going. But I was feeling that connection with Youth Sahavas and doing it, adapting for the first time the 30th anniversary for virtually, and how powerful it is. And then kids being able to come from all over the world that couldn't have come before.
Yeah.
Just like this.
Yeah, and your daughter's great as one of the major people there.
So is that being shown someplace? Is that on Circle of Friends?
It's not for us old people, I don't think.
I think what they may do is make a video of it sometime, mix it all together so you can see what this experience was for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That the videos we just saw of the music was fabulous. I don't know how they did that, but I was interested in how they managed to do that. I guess from all those different places.
Yeah, they must have sent out, the main copy, and they sang their part. They produced it beforehand and then put the whole finished product on.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Somebody's going to create something so that you can do it simultaneously. Yeah. Because all the choirs around the world, I'm in a choir. It's awful not to be able to practice, and to sing and to have we have about 50 or 60 people, and it's really fabulous. And it's awful not to be able to sing in a big group like that.
Yeah, whoever makes that discovery is going to make a lot of people happy.
Good night, beautiful people. Jay
Yeah,
Baba.
Cindy. Yeah, and give my love to Michelle.
I will.
Beautiful.
She loves it. She said one thing like the kids will get on me about my force or whatever it was, and growing up, you know how people have their children issues, and of course we have our part in that. But she said, Mom, I will always be grateful for that part of you, because that's how I got to Sahavas the last year I could do it, was like your kind of force and bribery, and it's changed her whole entire life. So that, of all the things, if you have to, I don't want a lot in good and bad column, but I'm like, okay, that personality trait got my daughter to Sahavas, and here it is.
Yeah.
All right. Mwah.
Yeah. Anyone have anything to share or bring up?
Jeff, I
Yeah.
have a question. It's Ruth. Somewhere years ago, I read something that Baba said. I don't know. For some reason, I'm thinking of the discourses, but I don't remember that when someone actually was aligned with the universal mind, spontaneity of creation occurs. And I don't know where I heard that or where I read that actually. I don't know if it rings any bells for anybody, but I've been looking for that for years.
Yeah.
No, I mean the quote, not the connection.
Repeat it again, Ruthie, what you said.
I've been looking for both for years, to be honest.
What? Tell me what it is again.
It was like when someone is connected or in line with the universal mind, then that's where creativity spontaneously occurs. And I'm misquoting it terribly.
Yeah.
Baba says things so much better, but that's the idea. Do you know? Does anybody know?
So do you think it could be in the discourses?
I thought it was, but yeah, I thought it was.
Oh, you know what? In volume 4, you can look in the discourses and probably look up universal mind, or and they have where it is, and either God speaks or the discourses.
Hey, girl.
Yeah, but I'd have to
Okay.
have more of a phrase. I can look it up for you.
Okay.
In that part, if you just tell me again, when you're in line with the universal mind,
Spontaneity, creativity occurs.
Spontaneous creativity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my. Yeah, I forget that there's all these wonderful searches. I never use one. Thanks.
In
I've
God,
got
it's in a book. It's not a Google search, but it's probably Googleized too.
Baba did say in God Speaks that, and I always made a note of it, where he says that whimsicality, let's see, how was it? Whimsicality is a sign of, oh shoot, I had to quote, now I've lost it. But the idea is that whimsicality is a sign of an independent nature, meaning it's not it's not a replay of some sanskaric stuff. It's coming fresh from the heart of creation, you might say. Whimsicality is a sign of an independent nature. I thought of Kitty. Kitty, there was a whimsicality about Kitty, like something was just happened, like a baby, like it's, every scene they see is like new. And Kitty would come out with remarks that they were just from a whimsicality that was like from the original whim, you might say, whimsicality that was so delightful, and it didn't have any precedent, you might say. It just came through. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I feel like that, I don't know why, but when you guys are talking about this, I'm thinking a lot about improv. And I used to do a lot of improv. And the one thing that I experienced and why I loved it so much was because if you really just kind of take a deep breath and then step over the threshold and let whatever comes out with the context of like storytelling. If you let that kind of come out, there's just so many beautiful stories and connections that you can have with other people that would otherwise not be possible. And usually it's all for the positive. I mean, you know, if you're not doing competitive improv, but I mean, just storytelling, you know, and
Yeah.
connecting with others, it's sometimes I didn't know where these stories were coming from, but they were so elaborate and so many different facets and details. You're like, where is this coming from? But that's actually how I met my wife, because I did a one-man show, because it was all these stories coming through, and so she came to the show, and that's how we got. I mean, that's how she first met me. But first thing she did was to come down through the crowd, because there's all these people surrounding me. And they're like, oh, that's just such a great, that was just amazing. That's a good job. And I was just like, yeah, you know, yeah, thanks. And then all of a sudden, she comes barreling through the crowd with an orange scarf with Farsi writing on it, and she just runs right up to my face, and she's like, "Oh, you thought you were really good. You thought you were the best actor in the world, didn't you?" And like mocking me, completely mocking me. And I found it in that moment. Because I was in that state of just feeling really free. I just like immediately knew the nature that she was coming from, and I just laughed so hard that I fell on the ground, like it rolling around in front of my parents, in front of the audience, in front of everyone. I was just like, who are you? It was so spontaneous, and yeah, I just think that's beautiful how about that, you know, those things kind of can happen when you are really tuning into that musicality or just freedom.
In sports, they call it, and it really is a place to be in the zone. I played a lot of sports, you know, and there's a such thing as being in the zone where you are in alignment with something that is at a universal level. And things happen that you just previously had no ability, but something you get overtaken, eclipsed. And it's like I say that we have different experiences of that, especially in improv. That shows up, that kind of thing. But yeah,
I always love the funniest things that show up in improv. The wacky, the wacky funny things kind of always just amazed me. I guess because of Baba.
Yeah, but what Baba, you know, enjoyed, they used to put on a lot of skits and plays for Baba. And what Baba enjoyed most is, you know, someone forgetting their lines or coming in at the wrong time and watching how the other actors have to try to make adjustments to try to smooth the thing out. And there was one beautiful thing that I thought was there was Monty used to write these plays, and she had this scene in a hotel, and it was a restaurant, and I mean the dining area and all that. And she prevailed upon Marwan Jessawala, who was just a young kid at the time and very shy, to come and just make this appearance where he would be like a little waiter bringing out a tray with tea and everything on it. And so that's all they had to do. He didn't have to say anything, just come and bring it to the table where she was sitting with some other customers. And what happened when Marwan came out, and there were and the plays would be witnessed by Baba and Mara. You know, they would be the ones who watch the whole thing, and they would work for months on this. So anyway, Marwan comes out, and he sees, and he has this offering. I mean, he has the tea, but he sees Mara and Baba, and so he goes right to Baba and Mara and brings the tea. And Monty's over there saying, boy, bring that's for me. Bring it over here. But his devotion to Baba, I mean, it's like there is Baba, and he's the one that should be served. And Monty is trying to like say, but boy, I ordered, that's my order, come over here. So those are the kind of things that, you couldn't script it. He just went off of the grid entirely. you know, Baba and Mara come first. That was his. That's
I
beautiful,
heard
though.
something that Baba really enjoyed, like when who was, no, maybe it was another Monolith member, but it was somebody that was saying like, oh, I don't like watching, like when people would start going into in-depth like dramas, he'd be like, oh, I don't want to watch it. Is it funny? Like, okay, I don't want to watch it. I forget. I think it might have been Pendu. Somebody was like not into watching the dramas when they would get like dropped down or something. I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, they would spend time, the women Mandali would spend time on these, on their costumes and their face and everything that you couldn't even recognize who they were. That was so good. Or they dress up as a man and you couldn't tell which woman Mandali it was. I mean, they were very, and Baba got a great kick out of that. Yeah.
So I think Ruth mentioned something about universal mind and creativity. I remember a reference in God Speaks about, that's the section about forgetfulness. And Baba explains that when one is in that state of mind, you're so completely mentally detached from the world that great masterpieces are produced in that state of mind. I think he explains in
Yeah.
that section.
Yeah.
I think that was some reference about creativity.
Yeah. When it comes out of self-forgetfulness, masterpieces come out of
Yeah.
getting
Can you
out of the
say
way.
again which section of
I
God
think
Speaks?
this is the second part of God Speaks. I want to say the forgetfulness section on page 199, I think.
Viragna.
Forgetfulness. Oh, I have a PDF here that has that section pulled out. So he explains positive forgetfulness and then negative forgetfulness. Positive forgetfulness when in the true spirit, you don't react to the adverse circumstances. It's non-reaction to both the favorable as well as the adverse. And that positive forgetfulness is what he references in that section, saying that once you are in that state of mind, the artist gives form to an ideal in which he completely forgets himself, which is complete, and whatever he comes up with is completely irrelevant to the surroundings and creates a masterpiece.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That reminds me of
Wow.
Norina. That reminds me of Norina when she was playing Virgin Mary on stage, and she was like her only thing. She created a masterpiece, literally standing still for hours, and people were like feeling Virgin Mary's love through her, and like the blue lights and all that, and people were being affected. I just thought that was incredible.
Wow.
When she was acting in the Miracle there in England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you read that again, please?
Yeah. Ruth, you wanted me to read out the forgetfulness section?
Please.
Yeah, sure. So there's 2 paragraphs here. It goes, positive forgetfulness, although it lies at the very root of happiness, is by no means easy to acquire. Once a man attains this state of mind, however, he rises above pain and pleasure. He is master of himself. This forgetfulness, to be fully effective for the spiritual life, must become permanent. And such permanence is only acquired through constant practice during many lives. Some people, as a result of efforts towards forgetfulness in past lives, get spontaneous and temporary flashes of it in a later life. And it is such people who give to the world the best in poetry, art, and philosophy, and who make the greatest discoveries in science. In such moments of true forgetfulness, there is a mental detachment from all material surroundings, in which the poet allows his imagination to soar. An artist, when he gives form to an ideal in which he completely forgets himself and all irrelevant surroundings, creates a masterpiece. The best of philosophy is uttered when a man surveys the problem of life without reference to the ups and downs of his purely personal circumstances. And some of the greatest scientific discoveries have been made in this same frame of mind. Such manifestations of genuine spontaneity of forgetfulness are very rare indeed. And although it is said that poets, artists, and philosophers are born and not made, these fleeting phases of real forgetfulness are the result of efforts made in past lives.
Beautiful.
So what page is that in God Speaks?
So I have a PDF in front of me, the God Speaks. It is the second section of the PDF. It starts on page 199 of the PDF. Let me see if I have the book right here.
Yeah, I looked in the table of contents and I can't find it.
Try page 199, see what you get. Wow.
God is
I forgot that piece.
Did you find it?
No, it's not. It's not that on 199. It starts state 10. God is man.
Okay.
Mankind.
So it is God Speaks, page 199 in the book as well, and this comes after the 10 states of God, after the conclusion, part 10.
So how come when I read God Speaks, I never hear these things?
I'm not sure. So let me share.
Do you know how many times you have to read God Speaks? And
10.
Now after each time, short story.
I throw up my hands. I throw up my hands.
So here's the content of, it says contents of the supplement. It's in the supplement section of God Speaks. And that's 199 in there.
Acha, there it is.
No, I must have the bad edition because I can't find it.
Supplements.
Well,
Supplements, Liz.
But Shraddha, just give the title that's the previous closest title.
It's in
so
supplements.
Forgetfulness is like a sub-chapter, yeah. And in the supplement, I think it will be practical mysticism in the supplement.
Okay, practical mysticism, yeah. No, that's wonderful.
Excuse me, can I just ask, what's the publication date? Because I might just have an earlier publication.
So here
go to the supplement.
Elizabeth, you'll find it. Believe me, you'll find it.
Yeah, I love this section so much.
Yeah,
I highlighted it in my PDF, so I didn't have reference to the book. But in the book also, it is page 199. I think it is. I'm trying to find the date. It is the second edition, which is a revised and enlarged. Second edition, 1973.
Okay, I just can't. I'll look later then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Find it, yeah.
So when you do your God Speaks reading group, please let me know because you read beautifully. Just
Thank
let me
you.
know.
I'm not even a part of the group. I don't get enough time, so I read it at my spare time. And this is, I mean, God Speaks. Every time I turn over a page, it gives so many new insights, like Jeff said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I think you want to, shall we take a few moments of, before we head on to dinner or, Alan, in the case of Alan, it's his late afternoon nap, you know.
Well, I just have to say, Elizabeth, I think, or is that your name? Sorry, I can't read.
Me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, try 211 because I have a pretty old version myself, and you might want to
Yeah.
try 211. I'll just say that before the silence.
God bless your soul.
Thank you all.
That's it. Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Nice to see all of you.
Jai Baba.
Thank you, Jeff.
Rada, love to your family.
Oh, thank
Nice
you,
to see
Jeff.
your mom and dad the other day. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah. They
Oh,
always remember you.
yeah. No, it's real. So I guess
Yeah.
we're off
Obviously.
back to the rat race.
Good night, everybody. Thank
Thanks
you.
very much,
Bye.
everybody.